Well, I don't think they have to be at ease. I'm not interested in their being comfortable
Okay.
because leadership is not about being comfortable. It's about being visionary. It's about wanting change. It's about seeing something that just isn't all right with you and not putting up with it anymore. Women don't make better choices. I don't think women make better choices than men. I think they make different choices than men.
Welcome to the Landmark Difference Makers interview series. My name is Seamus Ford. I'm Landmark's Director of Community Engagement, and today we're going to be interviewing Jerrie Ueberle, who is a visionary philanthropist and global leader committed to advancing gender equality and empowering women worldwide. As a driving force behind global interactions and the World Academy for the Future of Women, Jerrie has dedicated her life to fostering leadership development, education, and social change, particularly for women in underserved communities. Her work has touched lives across the globe, equipping women with the tools and opportunities to step into leadership roles and make a profound difference in their communities. In our interview, Jerrie's going to share her passion for global transformation, offer insights from her decades of experience in philanthropy and international collaboration, and women's leadership. We look forward to learning more about her mission to create a more equitable and sustainable future for women everywhere. Jerrie, this is great. Really, really, really glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I love sharing the World Academy.
Well, let's start with that. Jerrie, why, for people listening, people watching, let's just create, or have you create, what is the World Academy and why does it exist?
Well, it's a bold and daring leadership program that prepares women for campus, community, country, and global leadership. And it's located in universities. Actually, we're in 7 countries and wanting to expand within those countries as well as to other countries. All my life, women have made progress, no doubt about it. Every year of my life, conditions for women get better, but we're still at the bottom. And that seems so incongruous. Every year we get more, but we never get up. And so the purpose of the World Academy is to have women in universities where they sometimes it's the first time they've ever had an opportunity to make choices on their own or notice that they can make choices on their own. Before mothers made, fathers made, grandparents made the choices for them. Our teachers made choices that they took. And in the academy, they realized that wherever they are now, it's because the choices they made. They made them because somebody encouraged them to make it, somebody insisted, but they ultimately made that choice. And so we want them to make choices for their future that will fulfill the life they want to live.
Hmm. Well, you're in 7 countries, and people that participate in the academy, the women that participate in the academy have to make a pretty big commitment in order to participate in it. Can you say a little bit about how it's structured and what the young women are agreeing to as part of being in the academy?
Yeah, and I want to be sure because you're seeing men in the pictures. There is a men's academy for the future of women that men requested, came knocking on my door and saying, we want to be in the Academy for the Future of Women. We want a men's academy. So to be in the academy, you have to apply. We don't recruit people for the academy, but we have an application process where they can apply indicating that they're interested in being a leader. And then we interview them, and each year at each site, we select 100. And the agreement when they come into the academy is that they want to be a leader. And we're there because they said that. We're not there to convince them they should be a leader, but to respond to that they want to. So we especially want to know what they want to lead. If they don't know what they want to lead, what they want to change, they're not leading anything. So the interview is about, what do you see that you'd like to make a difference in? So that they begin to ground themselves in the process of making choices that will make a change in the world. So They have to agree. There's no charge for being in the World Academy. It's an action leadership program. It's not a content leadership program. It's an action. We're not putting stuff in, we're pulling stuff out about what they see about their future and the future they want to live into. So they must agree to spend 8 to 10 hours minimally in the academy every week in addition to their academic program. So it is a big choice. And when they find that they cannot keep their word in attending all of the sessions of the World Academy, there's seminars, there's coaching, there's labs, all of them have to create a project around a United Nations sustainable goal and implement it. When they find they can't do that, they must remove themselves from the academy.
Mm. I think
Because
before you say more, I think it's worth letting people know the various countries where the academy exists.
good. We started in China in 2005. Sorry, 2009. And and we're there until last year when the government asked us, uh, told us not to do this anymore. I feel we'll come back because we have probably 2,000 Academy alumni in China. Two of them are coming to my house for
Mm.
Christmas. So we have a strong alumni association. So we started in China, then we went to Nepal, then we went to Bangladesh, then we went to India, and then we went to Mexico, and now we're in Kenya and Uganda. And we're looking for new sites, not only within the countries that we're in, but new sites. And nobody pays a fee to be in the academy. I think we ought to be scholarshiping people who want
Mm.
to be in leadership programs, not charging them huge amounts of money to be in a leadership program. And this is action leadership. So it's they're not paying in money, they're paying in time and creativity and the actions they take. So they see the results of their engagement.
And, as you describe the academy and you describe all of the countries that you're active in, uh, there's an experience that the participants have that's probably quite different than young women, their peers in countries like the United States or Australia or Western Europe or places like that. Can you say a little bit, about what participating in the academy represents, or what it the opportunity that it is for them?
Yes, okay, good. Well, first I want to say where women are not. We're not at the decision making tables in many instances. Although we've gotten better, only 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. Five, five out of 500. Only 13% of women are on corporate boards. In governments, it's around, well, it certainly varies from country to country, but 25% would be a good number. I know there's somebody from India. I'm not sure what the portion of women in government in India is. But until you have a voice in decision making, you're not going to have the outcome you want, whether it's for women or for anyone. So we must get women moving forward to see that their voice counts. And uh, when I first said one of the operating principles is you have a voice and you have a choice. And everything that you've chosen has gotten you where you are today. And you did choose everything that got you where you are today, even though you may think your mother made you do this, or your father made you do this, or your grandmother said that was a good idea, or your teacher said, but you ultimately made that choice. It was highly influenced, but you may not have had the confidence and the courage to have your voice said. And that's one thing we do is we have the members of the academy go home and talk to their parents about what they want. Because in many of the countries where we're in, the families are rural families. a woman who, I'm going to give you an example, Seamus, so stop me if I get carried on the wrong path, said, came to my room and she said, I know what my vision is. I know what I want to do. And I said, great, what is it? I want to be a fashion designer. I want to go to Manchester University in the UK and get my degree. And I said, that is so exciting. And she said, no, my parents are peanut farmers. They don't even know what a fashion designer is. They've never heard of Manchester University, and I doubt that they know where the UK is. And so she went home excited about the choice she made and said, you know, a peanut farmer doesn't think that big, or her parents had never thought that big. So in the oath of the academy, we want them to go beyond their personal and geographic boundaries and to broaden their vision for what is possible in the world. So we're always asking them, what would be possible?
You just use a word. Their oath in the academy.
Yes, they have an oath and they have an operating principle. And they say the oath every time they come to class. We have time, I'll read you the oath. It is so powerful. And they don't just say the oath, as one of the members I was speaking in Shanghai, and before I started talking, she came running from the back of the room. It was a group of international women, and she came running from the back of the room and said, Jerry, could I say the oath before you start talking? And I thought, really? Yeah, why not? So she did. And then she said, this is not the oath I say every day. This is the oath I live my life by.
Mm. Well, you have to share the oath then.
Okay. Now, want to hear it now?
Please.
Okay. As a member of the World Academy for the Future of Women, I'm committed to the acceleration of women's leadership worldwide. I'm inspired through my discovery of my passion, my purpose, and my path to success. I am courageous and will act with honesty and integrity. I will go beyond my personal and geographic boundaries. I'm generous with my time and resources. I honor and respect the rights and dignity of all people. I widen my vision for what is possible and strengthen my capacity to lead. I live a meaningful and fully expressed life. As a global citizen, I take responsibility for my action and live my life in harmony with the planet. I make this oath freely, and I give my word to keep it.
Mm.
And it's kind of like you can hear that language, and that they will Zoom me, or they will send me an email or a WeChat and say, I went beyond my personal and geographic boundaries today.
Well, I think it's important for somebody listening or watching right now just to kind of let that in. You know, going back to the countries where the academy is active in East Africa and the Himalayan mountains, and in places where the experience for a woman is vastly different on average than the experience for a woman in the West, the global West.
The other thing I want to say at this point, Seamus, is in the academy, we invite the women to bring their mothers to anything that they can. Now, many of them can't. And it took about 3 years for me when we started in China to get the mothers to come on campus, because they didn't want their daughters to lose face, because they had holes in their elbows of their sweaters and in their shoes, and they were from the village, and they thought that would be an embarrassment for their daughters. But I wanted the mothers to come because I wanted the daughters to thank them, and I wanted to thank them for encouraging their daughters to continue their education. That took
Mm.
courage from their mothers, because it wasn't the normal thing to do for women to come to college. And that's one of the areas where women
How
are.
did their mothers react?
Well, when we were having at that time a women's symposium every year, and 10,000 women come to this symposium. It's pretty phenomenal, and they come from all over the world. So the first night we have an honoring mothers reception where the daughters introduce their mothers. Now, this isn't the 10,000, of course, this is the World Academy members, and the mothers should come. But they introduce their mothers and thank them for encouraging them to come to college. And I wanted the mothers to come because I knew we were telling them things their mothers didn't tell them, or wouldn't tell them, or didn't know how to tell them. So I wanted to be responsible that when the daughters came home with ideas way beyond coming back to the village and getting married and raising children, that their daughters were speaking from somebody who really cared about their future. So I wanted to be authentic with the mothers. And now the mothers come and they bring their husbands, so the fathers come and some of the children come. So it's quite an event.
Well, there are so many things that we can talk about. I unfortunately am going to have to pick and choose among the questions I prepared. But one of the things that I want to just, you know, there's a lot of now very established research about what educating a girl does for an economy, what it does for so many of the basic quality of life statistics in a country or in any geographic region.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything you'd like to just share with people about how you're forwarding that?
And the thing that you mentioned, we have known for a long, long time that when men and women make decisions together in businesses and corporations, the bottom line comes up. That information has been around a long, long time, but the practice hasn't improved significantly. We've known that it makes a difference, but we're not practicing. That's the World Academy is an action leadership program. It's not about getting smarter about these things and knowing more about leadership and knowing more about how difficult it is for women's voices to be heard or women to get equal. You don't have equal pay, for heaven's sakes. In the United States, I think it's 83 cents on the dollar, and we've been working on that forever. So it's not that we don't know, it's that we don't take action. And I say we're smarter than we act. We know these things. And let's take it away from women. We know how to lose weight. We don't do that. We know how to be healthy. We don't do that. We know we should exercise. We don't. So we're very, very smart, but we're not very good at taking action on what we know. And in the academy, the performance of the women in the academy is on the action that they take.
Hmm.
They're evaluated on and there's no test, there's no, and I mentioned there's no fee for being in the, that's the symposium. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Hmm.
Ah, um
If you're listening, it's a massive, massive auditorium.
yeah, it is. um and we did that before I started the academy. I was on the board of the university, and so I started the symposium before I started the academy. Now I lost my train of thought.
Well,
So
if you look at the the different circumstances in different countries, I was listening to something on the BBC today about women have been protesting the morality police and whether they cover their hair or not in a number of instances. And um, what was striking to me is that most of the time when those protests happen and the women are arrested, uh, a story is invented about them having mental illness. It's the and there's many places in the world where women are related to, and I'm going to use I'm going to use what I think is the accurate term, an incredibly archaic way, and uh, it's not without risk. And when you talk about some of the countries, I don't imagine it's not without risk that for some of these young women to participate in in the World Academy for the Future of Women.
Yeah. I think I might be too close to that to see, but the thing about the women in the academy is there's 100 of them, and we speak to them like the world. They are the world. Those 100 people are the world. And so they're responsible for everybody else in their world. And when you hang out with 100 people who have real high values, 8 to 10 hours a week for a whole year, you kind of act very different than everybody
Mm,
else. You
mm,
kind of, and I said one time to, in China, they stay in the academy. Some of them stay in 4 years. They come in as a freshman. You can come in a year, but they come in and they stay 4 years. 4 years. I have to tell you something about the facilitators, but let me finish this first. They come in and they're with this group of people who want something that doesn't exist. So they're creating a new thing with their parents and their village and on the campus. And when the men wanted academy, and I asked the president if I could do a men's academy for the future of women, he said for men. He said why? And I said because they want it. And he said they do. And I said yeah, they want women. They want women to have equality. They see that their sisters have to drop out of high school and get a job and raise money so they can come to college. Now, that's not an unusual story. What was unusual is the man who came to me and said, I want a men's academy for the future of women, didn't think it was equal. He
what country
noticed
was
it,
this in? What country was this in?
that was China. Mm-hmm. And another one noticed that his aunt was a victim of domestic violence. And another one noticed that his mother, who was very ill, still had all the responsibilities for her in laws and her family and the immediate family. And he said, this isn't fair. And when people notice and take action, that's the issue. They take action. We've noticed forever that women didn't have equality. But people, and everything, nothing happens until somebody sees a possibility. And so and I, of course, because this is my running oil. Well, if it were possible to do that, how would you do that? If it were possible to make this happen, how would we do that? And then they start thinking about action, not just the fact.
Yeah.
Lots of facts. We don't have enough, and everything that is going on now at one time wasn't a possibility. Going to
Um,
the wasn't a possibility.
Jerry, before we started the recording the interview, we were talking and I had shared with you about how, I grew up without sisters
Mhm.
and became I have a daughter and, she's a teenager now. And I remember uh, having this moment, when she was young of just suddenly seeing the world through a different lens, like a lens that had never been accessible to me before. And I would do such a poor job of trying to describe the lens, but it 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 was an awakening for me, something that I suddenly saw. And I'm an adoptive parent. I, really wanted to be a parent, and I probably have thought about it a lot, perhaps more than, other dads. But one of the things I think about now is, anytime in history, anytime somebody stood for something, something else rises in opposition to it. And one of the things that you're seeing in America, and I think elsewhere in the world as well, is as women rise into new positions of leadership, as women start accessing their power, that there's a threat to the status quo. And for some men, um, the archetypes that I can include myself in this, the archetypes that we were really raised with don't quite fit anymore. What it is to be a man is being redefined. And um, I personally would be very interested in participating as a member of the, Men's Academy for the Future of Women.
Good.
But for somebody who just isn't easy with the idea, for example, of a woman president, here we are, election night again, or a woman boss, or sharing a traditionally male profession with women, what would you say to them to put them at ease?
Well, I don't think they have to be at ease. I'm not interested in their being comfortable,
Okay.
because leadership is not about being comfortable. It's about being visionary. It's about wanting change. It's about seeing something that just isn't all right with you and not putting up with it anymore. Women don't make better choices. I don't think women make better choices than men. I think they make different choices than men. And no woman was at the decision making table when they decided to go and bomb Palestine, or, it wouldn't happen that way. Let's go in and kill the women and children. That's not a conversation women would have. And, uh, and so we have to be so visionary about the outcome that we're working on that we don't worry about. We just take action toward it. We just enroll people in it. And I'll tell you how this happened. This is just phenomenal. I had no idea what I was doing when I said I want to start a World Academy for the Future of Women. And I said it in China to the president of the university, and he said, "What's the World Academy for the Future of Women?" And I said, "It's a bold and daring leadership program that will prepare women for campus, community, country, and global leadership." And he said, "Then that would mean the first president of China comes through the World Academy, graduates from this university." I said, "Yeah, that's what I'm thinking." And he said, "Well, okay." And so I came home, and I was at altitude before I left the tarmac. I was so excited that he gave me permission to do it. I was coming home, and then I got home and I thought, what on earth is the World Academy for the Future? What did I say? Oh, yes, that's what I said. And so I put it on my website, World Academy for the Future of Women. And I started getting people connecting, saying, "I want to be part of the World Academy for the Future of Women." And then I started writing down what they said, because I wondered what in that title they were drawn to that I could capture and start the World Academy. And so then at the end of the month, I called them all back and I said, "I am so excited you're interested in the World Academy." And I didn't get funding. And if you want to be part of the World Academy, you have to pay your way to China. You have to stay 5 weeks, and you have to create a 4-week leadership curriculum. And they all said yes. And so that is the model that we now use. If you want to be part of the World Academy as a facilitator, and the facilitator delivers the curriculum, you've got to go to the site, stay 5 weeks, deliver 4 weeks curriculum, and produce the results. There's an outcome, an action outcome for every week. So that's how it works. And let me just tell you, we have facilitators from Germany and Spain and Thailand and Canada and Australia and Hong Kong and China and India.
Mm.
And they call me. I just had a facilitator training in Toronto, 15 people, and some of them were from out of the country, came to be trained to be facilitators. So,
Mm.
you open a door and people get it. They get it. And they don't get paid. They don't get paid at all. So, if you're waiting until you get the money, one of the women in the academy said, "What I learned from the World Academy is you don't have to be a millionaire to make a difference." And she was referring to the facilitators who came, because sometimes they go on GoFundMe. Sometimes a woman from Albuquerque raised a garden, canned the fruit and the vegetables from the garden, sold it, and bought her airline ticket. They're creative, and it's so exciting. And one one of the facilitators is from he was in Shanghai, but he's from Germany, and he works for, I think, ExxonMobil. And he took a year sabbatical so he could go and facilitate at all the academies. His name's Sebastian.
I want
And
to I want to ask you forgiveness in advance. I want to go back and just explore a question I asked a little bit ago. Because I assert that there's a hazard in uh, there are men that are dislocated by this shift in culture, and that there is actual active opposition to the kind of leadership that um, women are expressing or wanting to express. And um, I totally get. I'm the same thing. You don't need to be comfortable with this. You just deal with it. It's happening. But um, one of the things that we talk about at Landmark is enrollment. And not enrollment like into a class or into the academy, but really creating a possibility for somebody where they see something, where they're moved, where they're inspired. And I'm wondering what is what let's say I want to go talk to one of these people I've detected as threatened. I can think of a few people that are kind of just dislocated by women's leadership, men. What would you say is the conversation or the possibility that I should create with them?
um, well, I would point out how, being 50% of the world's population and having so few leadership roles, they don't have a lot to gauge their fear on because there haven't been many of us around. But um, I would want to know how they come to think that. What would make you think that women couldn't do a good job, other than you've never seen it? Because women care. Women, no. Um, I haven't had to talk anybody into it or
Sure.
encounter.
Well, this is what I would say. I just wanted to hear what you had to say, but what I would say is that um, that all of us live by a value that's about there's the promise or the possibility of a world that works for everyone, a place
Yeah,
where everyone has a say, where our children can build on the opportunities that we benefited from and build greater opportunities for their children. And if women aren't included in that, if women aren't, if women's expression of leadership isn't present, we can't fulfill that. We need the place that women live from. Now, I'll give you my personal opinion. I just think women are smarter. I think that they don't need to experience the pain of a stove burner to know that you shouldn't put your hand on it, like so many boys. And there's something to that. There's a sense of uh, a relationship with the future and what's required to plan for it. And we need that kind of leadership more now than ever. With all of
I
the
don't. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'll tell you that mothers and fathers could change the inequality in a nanosecond. If they say, Judy, you go out and play, Johnny's going to help with the dishes tonight.
It's great. No, it's great. I mean, it's really, really great. And part of why I press on this question is that this interview and your message is really for everyone. Not it's about, well, I'd say it this way. We've tried it without women's leadership for a really long time, and we've got ourselves in a bit of a pickle as a civilization, a global civilization. And perhaps we need the looking of women to actually unwind the the problems that we've created. Now, that's my personal opinion, but
That's fine. And they've got to have the courage and the confidence to do that. I don't think men are holding women down as much as women are holding women down. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the courage. I have a friend who, well, was a facilitator, and uh, her husband worked for the labs, the national labs in the United States. Those are heavy, heavy thinking scientists. And I said, how many women do you have on your team? Was staying with them. And he said, well, when I started, I just had a couple. It was very, very few, but now it's 50-50. And I said, what difference did you see? And he went, oh my God, it takes us so long to come to a decision. We have to explore every nook and corner of what we're doing, and we make much better decisions.
Hmm.
So again, men take action. Women think about it. Women think about outcomes. How many wars are fought, and do we really think of the outcome of that war? The outcome of that war is, guess what? One more war.
Yeah.
And women wouldn't. I don't think women will think that way.
Well,
They
what I really hear in what you're creating is it's not about a succession of leadership. It's about a collaboration that's really never been there before.
Exactly, exactly. And the
Right.
division in the home is that model. The division in the home is that model. Men
Hmm.
do this at home and women do that.
Let me ask you a question. The commonality with the people we interview in the Landmark Difference Maker series is the people who participated in Landmark. And one of the things that I'm interested to know is what of the training that you've had, and it's been pretty extensive as I understand it at Landmark. What is it that you kind of fall back on that you got out of Landmark to really empower you as you go forward?
You know, I did EST back in the 70s. And so I've been with the work for a long time. And I just got home yesterday from the structural contacts vacation. I can shoot a gun, I can fire a rifle, I can hit a target, I can hold a snake. Uh, the exploration of things that Landmark opened my mind to, including the world working for everyone, was really big and
Mm,
really important.
mm,
And there's the United Nations has a sustainable development goals, and they began in the year 2000. I'm getting to your answer, Seamus. Give me a moment. They started in the year 2000 with 8 goals, 8 dynamic humanity goals: ending hunger, and Werner tried that, and we all tried with him. Uh, Ending poverty, domestic violence, world peace. All these things are in that. And we have answers and resources for all of that. 15 years of the 8 sustainable goals, or 8 millennium goals, and not one country met one goal. Not one country met one goal. They made progress, but not one country made one goal. And then they did the sustainable development goals, and there's 17 of them, and they're to expire in 2030. And not one country is even close to achieving one goal. And we have the resources. We don't have the action. We know what to do, but we're not doing it.
mm.
And so men and women must work together to see the value to humanity, not the value to the economic stuff of it. How much is it cost us? It's costing us lives, is what it's costing us, in order to do what we already know how to do. And that's an outcome. That's what the women in the academy do for their project. Their project must align with the UN sustainable goal, and they must produce an outcome. on their campus, in their community, in their village, wherever they choose to do the and they have to do it, and they have to do it with people who have different points of view. That's one of the criterion for putting your team together. You can't say, I'm going to do this. Everybody who wants to end hunger, come over in this corner. We say, everybody who wants to do this or doesn't think it can work, come be on my team. Because we want people with different points of view. If we don't have different points of view, we're just talking to each other about stuff we already know.
Mm.
When we went to the moon, there were people who talked about we can't go on to the moon. And if they hadn't been there, we wouldn't have explored the things that would have caused a failure. We would just looked at all the good things we can do. So going back to the family, going back to the mother and father who have different role models in the family, if they start seeing the differences that they represent, model, and communicate, and start together on that, their children will turn out different.
Hmm.
My dad never cooked a meal, well, maybe, in his life, and neither had his father. We model what we see, and we've got to show that there's different ways of being, and Landmark certainly shows us different ways of being.
Yeah.
Always. So much diversity in Landmark, so much.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you a question. One day none of us will be here. 100 years from now, none of us will be here. What do you want people to say about you when you're no longer here?
Thank you. That just that I open their eyes to a wider world.
Mm.
And I want them to thank me for finding the facilitators to come. In a year, the Academy has 8 facilitators, and those facilitators may be from 5 or 6 different countries. Most of them are American because they're easier to, they're here. And they all have to come to a training before they go, and the training it's not a virtual training. I got to see them in action. Got to get over that, but I got to see them in action before I send them off. I'm sending them off, and I don't want them to fail, and nobody has. But I here it is. This is it. What I want them to say about me is that I allowed them an opportunity to grow.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Jerrie, you're a force of nature, and it's really a privilege to spend this time with you. And I really thank you for what you're up to in the world. And I thank you for making the time to be with us today. It's a real pleasure.